Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for joining me for another episode of Rukshan On X. I've got a few people already joining in, and thanks for the super chat. Anthony, as always, you guessed it, it's Trump's fault. Great way to start the show. And Anthony, thanks once again for making people aware that if you do want to support the show, you can do a super chat on YouTube. Now, I have done a shorter introduction, guys. So instead of the 5 minutes, I've made it a two-minute introduction with the little intro screen at the start, because I want to spend the first few minutes just chatting with you guys while we wait for people to make their way into this show. And, we'll get into the news stories in the next 5 to 10 minutes while I chat with you guys just about, what's been happening today, how you guys are going. We've got a message here from Svetka saying, good evening. Good evening. Let me just bring it up on the screen here. DML. Joining in once again. Hey, mate, how you doing? Thanks for jumping in again. Baseline Benny. Good evening, mate. Good evening. And Amanda Troll, one of the actual trolls on my streams here. This stream better not have Avi in it. You will be happy to know, Amanda, that Avi is not on this stream. So this is an Avi-free zone. Feel free to troll Avi if you want on this stream. I don't mind. But I will be, as always, keeping an eye on for comments and messages on this stream, which might be against community standards. We've got one here from Montana Meow. How you doing? Good to see you again. Thanks for jumping on. And I am back in Melbourne, guys. So I was in Canberra last few days, and you saw me coming out of my hotel room when I was doing the Rukshan On X show on Monday and the Opposition podcast yesterday. But I am back in my home studio. Yes, it is a RV-free zone. Guys, I think everyone's just a bit too tough on Avi. He does make everything, a bit more controversial and entertaining. I think he brings an X factor, which I don't necessarily have in the same manner. So look, I like it when he's on the shows on the Opposition podcast. I think it's really entertaining. We got here Intermix Hector. Good, love you. I don't know if you're saying good. Avi's not around. Avi's probably watching this, then shaking his head, thinking that damn Rukshan, all he does is make fun of me now. Okay, DML, just saw David Limbrick talking about where another $1 million in Machete Madness money was spent. Spoiler, on marketing. I might bring up that video. Let me just make a note of it for the end of this stream. We'll play that video, DML, because I did see that before as well. I did want to give a few updates at the end of these shows as well on stories we've been discussing previously, and it's good to give an update on the machete ban. Mark, good. Canberra, thank God you escaped. It does have a eerie feeling, right? I like going back away from Canberra, and even some of the senators I've spoken to, in particular Senator Babbitt, shares this type of feeling as well when he leaves the place. Hookstagram says lol. And here we go. David, this is one of my ultimate trolls. He's been trolling me for years now. He says, I hate you. Why you said Pauline Hanson was for women's rights? Are you delusional? Mate, you need to find, more peace and happiness. You can't just go around hating people, especially people that, you've never really met in the real world. You've just seen me talking online. I don't hate people, especially. I agree with their opinion. I disagree with their opinions, and I disagree with their ideas, but I don't just randomly hate people. So you got to cut out the hatefulness. And look, I'm just going to answer that question now, David, because you've asked that, and you're saying this is around the burqa ban. I was going to leave this till the end of the show to give an update on this particular story, but there are actually women, even women of the Muslim or Islamic faith or from Middle Eastern countries that do support what Pauline Hanson is doing with this burqa ban. And I'm just going to show you one example of this, David, because you don't seem to want to accept this, and a lot of people don't want to accept this. But let me just pull up this post from an activist. Her name is Masia Alinjad, and she says, this is a post, she shared Pauline Hanson's burqa appearance in the Senate, and this is what she wrote. And she is a very prominent activist, Iranian activist. You can see she has a very large following. She actively campaigns for, freeing Iranian women from the oppression that they face, especially around head coverings. She has written in regards to Pauline Hanson, and she's not someone that's in Australia. She's written, in the first image, you see an Australian MP wearing a burqa in parliament to debate banning the burqa for women. In the second image, it is me and my friend, two women who have actually lived under the reality of forced burqa and hijabs imposed by the Taliban and in the Islamic Republic, appearing in an American TV. Now, I learned that the debate on banning the burqa wasn't even allowed onto the floor of the Australian Senate. I understand these issues can feel politically risky, but let's be honest, for us women of Iran and Afghanistan who lived under forced hijab and burqa, this is not an abstract political debate. It is a reality we survived. We were suffocated by it. I was beaten by Iran's morality police for showing my hair. Afghan and Iranian girls have been lashed, even killed, just for talking about their rights. And even thousands of miles away, we face assassination plots for the crime of asking for a debate on forced hijab. This isn't culture, it's oppression, exported globally. What some call culture, we recognize as gender apartheid enforced by the Taliban and the Islamic Republic. This is why I want to extend an invitation to you, Pauline Hanson, and Senator Payman, and members of the Australian Parliament. Open your parliament to those of us who have lived under forced hijab and burqa. Let Afghan and Iranian women share the truth directly with you to offer a clearer and more humane understanding of what millions of women face today. Australia has a proud democratic tradition of hearing voices, not silencing discussion. Including us would honour that tradition. We don't ask to be spoken about, we ask to be heard. So David, that's in direct response to what you said in regards to my comment yesterday, or my videos where I said Pauline Hanson's stance was also about women's rights. And here you clearly have someone who's a very prominent activist for Iranian women. I'm saying one of the top activists for Iranian women when it comes to this particular issue, seemingly defending what Pauline Hanson did to bring awareness to this, and saying that Australians should debate this particular topic. And it is a tool of oppression that women are forced to wear in countries like Iran. And she would love to have that debate happen in Australia. So this is what, when we have the virtue signalers in our parliament, including, unfortunately, people like Senator Payman and Marine Faruqi, who come from countries where women are oppressed in this manner, try to silence that debate from taking place here. It's completely ridiculous. It flies in the face of everything. And this is someone who's been directly impacted by it. That's the point that she's making. So, yeah, regardless of your hate, mate, it's it's not delusional what I said. It's a very real reflection that there are women out there from the Middle East that support Pauline Hanson and what she's doing. Anyway, let's get back to the show and reading some more of your comments. DML having a laugh at David for saying hate. And we got one from here, Calm Blue Ocean. Thanks for joining in. Hi, Rukshan. And I like Avi. Everyone is so down on him. I agree. Avi is a misunderstood character. And look, he puts himself in the firing line, and this is usually the end result, because you do become someone who's controversial, and people will form different opinions of you based on the interactions they presume to attribute to you. And Avi's someone that puts himself in the firing line purposely, and he attracts this type of attention. Amanda here says the burqa debate is a nothing burger. Get on with fixing the country. Look, I think alongside fixing the country, you can have multiple other debates as well. Fixing the country, that's a very expansive idea. And I know everyone can say, well, if we fix these things, everything will be okay. But there's always a long list of things, and no one's ever going to say that things are truly solved. Like, you don't get to a state where everything is perfect, especially in, a democracy where we do have differences of opinion on how things should be done. David has been saying for a long time that he will deport me, DML. That's his obsession. I think for the past 5 years, he's been living or he or she, I don't know exactly, has been living a very, I don't know what kind of life you'd live if you just focus all your time and energy when I do my shows or when I post something online talking about deporting me. Jane makes an interesting point. Would like to purchase a full face coverage burqa in possibly futile attempt to escape all the surveillance camera and digital ID. So I will be talking about digital ID today, guys. So there is a high court challenge that's happening. So let me just run through the topics I'll be talking about. all kind of related in a way. Victoria Police are expanding their powers for 6 months in the state of Victoria, especially within a radius in the Melbourne CBD. We're going to be looking at that. I'll play some videos from the news coverage and possibly some reactions on X. We'll also look at the Metro Tunnel pedestrian toll, although maybe it's being walked back now. This is an evolving topic that's just kind of happening as we speak. The social media ban challenge, which is around digital ID, that's coming into force in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, very soon. And then we also, the burqa ban. I was going to talk about the Iranian activists supporting Pauline Hanson, but we've already kind of covered that. And there's a few other stories that I wanted to touch up on at the end, but let's just jump straight into it. As you can see, guys, this is Rukshan On X. Thanks for joining in. If you're new to the show, your comments are streaming as I'm talking to my left, when I'm looking at the screen. You're much part of this conversation that I'm having, and I will try to refer to some of your comments as we go. If you wanted to directly, get my focus on what you want to say, you can do a super chat, and that will, pop up to me as a specific highlighted chat that I can bring up. But I will generally acknowledge and try to engage with as many comments as possible. We got one here, a super chat from John Palmer. Thanks, mate, for the super chat. You said, amazing, the feminists were happy to send Pauline to prison in 2003 and ban her now. And that's a great point that you raise, and about the feminists, that this is, we see this all around the world, where they're unwilling to defend women, especially women in Islamic or Muslim countries in the Middle East who are oppressed. They don't want to talk about those issues, and especially when that kind of oppression transfers over into the West, and we somehow accept it as being normal as well because, we don't want to offend anyone. And yeah, there is this double standard, there is this hypocrisy among feminists, and as we saw in the Parliament House, even amongst people like Fatia Payman, who ran away from Afghanistan. I'm not saying she ran away like scared or something, but I'm saying she came to Australia, I believe, as a refugee because of those similar issues that country was having. And today we're banned from talking about that oppression in our own parliament because people like her complain about it. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. All right, let's get to the first story, and we'll carry on from there. So let me just bring up this video. Let's just go here. All right, Victoria Police.
Victoria Police will have the power to stop and search anyone in Melbourne CBD from Sunday. The city centre, Docklands and South Bank will be declared a designated area until May 29. Officers won't need a warrant or reasonable suspicion of crime to conduct a search. Let's get a legal take on this now. Shifra Bluestein is the managing lawyer at Inner Melbourne Community Legal. Shifra, thank you very much for coming in. Surely you only have something to fear if you're doing the wrong thing, but you're opposed to these laws.
We are. First of all, they're not effective. There's been recent research by Liberty Victoria that shows the hit rate is about 1%, and that's not even all weapons. That includes small amounts of drugs or other things. So it's not even effective. And the other thing is it's causing a lot of harm. So even if you're not carrying anything illegal, these searches can be degrading, humiliating. You might be with your workmates or your friends. I work with a lot of young people who have faced a lot of hardship, and these kind of experiences where they're kind of forced to comply with a direction like this from police that's completely random just means they feel even more let down by the system and more excluded.
It's a little personal for me. I've got an African-American son, and black people are 15 times more likely to be targeted. Is it going to lead to more racial profiling?
Look, we definitely are very concerned about that. Police say they have no tolerance for racial profiling, but the evidence simply doesn't support that that's the case. There's been recent research released just this week showing that Aboriginal people are 15 times more likely to be searched by police, people of African descent 9 times more likely, and they're not any more likely to have anything illegal. So yes, police naturally, that's just how they operate. They use racist stereotypes and other kind of biases to do their work, and it doesn't stack up. It doesn't predict crime.
Playing devil's advocate, though, they're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. You'd acknowledge most Victorians would support this law because they don't feel safe at the moment, especially in the CBD with the amount of knife violence that we've had.
I guess what I would say to that is police have ample powers already to detect crime, to stop crime without this. This is licensing police to do a phishing exercise. If police are doing their job properly and they reasonably suspect someone has a weapon or is about to commit a crime, they can intervene. They can already search those people. This is just allowing random, or as you say, biased searches that aren't effective in finding things in most cases.
It's for a 6-month period, a specific area. Any explanation, any reason for that? Do you think it's just because it's summer in the city?
Well, they haven't given really, I don't think, a reasonable explanation, and they're not required to. They just gazette it. It happens. These are the powers that our government has given the police. They don't really even need to justify it. Obviously, a lot of people are going to the city in summer. People, on a break, going to the tennis or whatever. This is going to affect the civil liberties of all Victorians.
Shifra Bluestein, really appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much for your time.
Got an article here from SBS as well, so I'll quickly read that just to reiterate some of the points. So this is a 6-month expansion of powers for Victoria Police to frisk and search anyone, I guess, the way that it's written, for looking for weapons, whatever. Like, they almost don't have to give a reason. It is a very invasive expansion of powers, and I can talk about the reasons as to why this is happening. And I think many of us maybe have an inkling of an idea. Melbourne is kind of like Gotham City on steroids at the moment when it comes to all types of crime. But some of that crime is not really around the CBD itself as well, right? It is in the suburbs where you're having a lot of the burglaries and the robberies. There is a different type of crime that's happening in the city of Melbourne itself when it comes to robberies of shops, for instance, as also we have people who are coming in for protests weekly sometimes, who are carrying rocks and weapons and other things like this. So how this will exactly target and deal with this issue is yet to be seen, but it does look like the police have taken the easy option, at least in this case, to just give themselves extra power for 6 months to go all in and intimidate, I believe, the city of Melbourne. And again, I see perhaps the reasons for why this is happening, but like those civil liberties lawyers have raised, there is a chance here that these powers will be misused. And Victoria Police don't necessarily have the best track record when it comes to handling power, right? We all remember famously during the COVID pandemic, so-called, what they did with the emergency powers that they were given, right? We saw how they abused those powers. And I understand the fears of people, regardless of your political, ideological views and your views about how Jacinta Allen is handling crime in the city right now and things like this. Victoria Police itself do not have the best track record. Let's quickly read this article and we'll look at the map as well. So, political move or invaluable tool, police powers to search without warrant questioned. Victoria Police has announced expanded powers to search people in and around Melbourne CBD without a warrant. For the next 6 months in Melbourne, police will have the power to stop and search people without warrants in what they say will be an invaluable tool for removing weapons from the street. So either they have statistics, because they're very kind of vague with their statistics on how much, people they're catching with knives and machetes, right? We keep seeing the news with this happening in our streets, even in the city, but they're very vague. Maybe it's happening a lot more than we know, and now they're really worried, or they're just, again, making excuses. From Sunday, police and protective service officers can exercise the powers within Melbourne CBD, Docklands, South Bank, the Sporting Precinct, and parts of South Melbourne. The powers expire on 29th of May, 2026. Some of this almost feels like Jacinta Allen, like a lot of the things that she's doing now, her hard on crime stance. Again, these are things that we need in many respects, whether you agree with her or not. Leading into the election, things aren't looking good for her with the Victorian public. Like, the Victorian public has caught on to the fact that the Labor Party under Jacinta Allen has been very, very weak on crime. And it almost feels like they've flipped it and just gone extremely hard now leading into election time, because what's more important than, protecting Victorians, protecting Melburnians, is ensuring that you don't get too much on shaky ground when it comes to the election, right? And she's maybe looking at some of the polls and seeing this new contender in the opposition, Jess Wilson, coming up as well, and she's doing pretty good in the polls right now because she's a fresh face, and maybe she's worried. And all of this is to make people, the normies of Melbourne, feel like something is happening, but at the expense of our civil liberties. That is the concern. Let's keep reading this article. RMIT Assistant Associate Dean of Social Science Research and Policy, Dr. Catherine Daly, has told SBS it's almost entirely a political move as Victoria heads to the polls late next year. Well, there you go. I haven't even read this article. That's what I was thinking. Youth crime has become a really politicized issue. The government wants to be seen as being up on that, and the police need to be seen as doing that, she said. Earlier this month, Victoria Premier Jess Dallin introduced adult time for violent crime laws, where children as young as 14 could face possible life sentences under the proposed changes. The opposition leader Brad Batten said at the time the Premier is chasing another headline with no plan to follow through and deliver. So I don't know if you can see this map. That's the zone in which if you're living in Victoria, and I know a lot of my audience live in Victoria, and if you're in the CBD, and for whatever reason the police might want to come up and search you, they can, for whatever reason, search your person and get you to empty your pockets and things like this. And it could happen. It could happen to you. The number of criminal incidents in Victoria has risen to the highest on record this year, according to Crime Statistics Agency Victoria. Property and deception offences are the largest category of crime in the state, making up 66%. This includes theft, burglary and arson, and such crimes are 4 times more common than crimes against a person, such as assault. In September, Victoria Police reported that 0.07% of the population was responsible for 40% of the crime, stating recidivism in teenagers as a big factor. I mean, of course, if they're going to be kept on letting out on bail by our weak justice system, they are going to keep reoffending because there's no consequences to their offending. The warrantless search powers encompass those aged under 18, and Daly said that young people are in public spaces such as the CBD more because they don't have anywhere else to socialize. They can't go into bars. They're under 18, often in shopping centers. Security staff move them on because young people hanging out is seen as a bad look. Young people who can congregate and will congregating over summer holidays will be targeted by police because now see young people as potential gangs or criminals. Daly said that despite police saying that if you're not carrying a weapon, you don't have to worry, it's still humiliating to be searched. Imagine sitting in Federation Square hanging out with your friends and the police come up and pat you down, ask to take your jacket off and search you. You might not have a weapon, but it's still a humiliating experience. And there's a little bit more written there. You can go read that. It's available for free, this article on SBS. And the powers are unprecedented. I don't know if in our history of this state they've been given, because we've seen these type of powers before, but it's been for like a 6-month, a specific protest, right? The emergency powers during COVID was slightly different, but usually it's been for a specific protest where this has happened. Whereas in this instance, it seems to be just, flat out for 6 months, we're going to be searching. Where did the chat comments go? Let's bring that up. Disappeared. Oh, having a bit of a glitch, guys. Let me just get your comments on screen again. Wants to play up. All right, we'll keep this screen. Let me know what you guys think, because again, I see why this is happening, but it definitely feels like it's all political. It definitely feels it's related to elections, and it definitely feels like an encroachment on our civil liberties. That the fact that they've let crime get so rampant in the Gotham city of Melbourne that they've now had to, make all of us essentially targets of the police. And that if we're just in the CBD enjoying life, right, as we should be able to do in a free society like Australia, if we're just sitting there, like someone pointed out in the article, in Federation Square having lunch with friends, if you look suspicious for whatever reason, or we don't even know for what reason, the police can come up to you and search you. And, it can be humiliating. And I think we are going to see instances of people saying that they've been profiled. This is usually what happens. I think New York had this similar type of thing for a while, and people are always complaining that they're being profiled. We've already had people like Lydia Thorpe and so on come out against this and saying that this will disproportionately target Aboriginal people, for instance, in the city. Again, she says it's about everything, but I do see the possibility of, just innocent members of the public getting into confrontations with police over this. Let's have a look at your comments and your thoughts on this, and we'll keep moving on. I do concur with some of the things that you guys are saying, that Jacinta is definitely trying to win back some votes. She really wants to be seen as being tough on crime. And how much tougher can you be on crime than targeting innocent people, right? Than using the police state against just everyone, right? Let's forget about just targeting the criminals. Let's forget about addressing the issues around these criminal gangs and, some of the very obvious things about these criminal gangs, these little African youth gangs mainly that are causing this trouble. Let's forget about touching on all those subjects, because that's a bit risky for a Labor government. Let's just search everyone. Let's just give Victoria Police power and we just search everyone. So everyone's a criminal now, right? That's their response. Crown Tash says, I feel like they're reporting more on it. These things happen all the time, but they never used to report on it. Yes and no. I know that there's always been crime. There's always been youth crime for sure. It's been around for a long time, but it's been somewhat what's the term? It was in certain areas, right? It's been somewhat managed in those areas. Now it's kind of spread everywhere. And it's like in daylight, you have these young criminals that don't really give a crap. They're pulling out machetes left, right, and center. I don't remember this really growing up. And I grew up in a very shady part of Victoria. And even there, I'm talking about in Dandenong, that's where I grew up. And I was there for, into my my early adult life there. I don't remember this type of criminality. And there was crime there, but not like this. We've got some another super chat here as well. Equity, thanks for joining the show, mate. Searching without justification is fascist. Yes, there is an element of this being overreach, for sure. And part of me wants to say, this is kind of what we have to do to respond to the crime that we're seeing in our city. We've been led to this particular point where we've had to give the police more power. But it shouldn't be like that in the first place. This seems all very lazy. It seems like a cop-out, really. All right, guys, let's bring up some more of your comments and then I'll move on to the next story. And Martina says, let them feel you up. I mean, Victoria is an interesting place. There might be individuals, Martina, that like the police feeling them up. They might just go in there into the city just looking suspicious just so the police can pat them down. This is the kind of state that we live in. Amanda says, cops suck. This crap is why we need a PR department. We got one here from Pure Blood saying that lunatics are running the asylum. Yeah, we are the Melbourne. Melbourne is the protest capital of the world. Blast from the past here. We got circuit breaker lockdown. This is a 6-month circuit breaker, warrantless search and frisk for Victoria Police. I'm just looking forward to listening to all the stories of police abuse, because for some reason they can never get it right. The police members always go overboard. And JJRM has said, free Palestine. Thanks for your contribution, mate. Amanda says, I'm wearing the same shirt as yesterday. Yesterday I was wearing a black shirt. I'm not wearing the same shirt as yesterday. Racial profiling is a survival skill. Look, I mean, there is elements to this that I can maybe agree with, and we are all, whether we want to admit it or not, racist to some regard. We notice the differences between people as humans. That's how we identify each other. We can tell, like we instinctively know that someone is different. So there is that. But you'd want to believe that the police are not doing this, obviously. But having said that, there are particular youth gangs who are very much, racially, you can racially profile them, I believe, because it's very obvious that some of these kids that are hanging around in these gangs causing this trouble are of a particular background. A lot of the times they are of African background. And, it's in the facts, it's in the data that we're seeing coming out, even though it's not discussed. When you see the CCTV, when you see the photos of some of these attacks, that's who these kids are. So, I mean, will the police notice a group of African kids and go up to them and ask them to search them because they might have weapons? I think they will have to, because more likely than not, in this particular, what we're seeing in Melbourne, that's what's been happening now. Is that okay? I don't know. I don't know. We're going to have to deal with all that, aren't we? Equity says, they created the problem and are taking our rights away to fix it. Same playbook every time. And I think, Equity, you hit the nail on the head there, because same thing with the free speech issues we're having with the hate speech laws. Same thing with this particular thing with the weapon and the crime, right? They haven't addressed these issues. They don't address some of the hateful rhetoric, with the existing laws, and their solution is to take away more rights from us. So whether it's with these extra hate speech laws, whether it's with these now warrantless searches in the CBD, again, just taking away rights from ordinary innocent people to fix their problems and make themselves look like they're doing something. So I definitely agree with what you're saying. Some go over to the Oddcast and tell them to free Manda. Is the Oddcast still going? I apologize to Carly and Topher. I've got to start at 9 o'clock, guys. They start at 7:30 or 7. And, sometimes Topher and Carly, they just waffle on. Topher has a tendency to just talk and talk and talk. Again, I love those guys. I'm just making fun of them. But, he just talks and talks and talks. And you could be on the Oddcast for, till 10 o'clock, 10:30, the rate that those two waffle on it. Thanks for joining in, guys. So let's just go to the next story now. And that is, again, in the city of Melbourne, which this seems really embarrassing for Victorians and Melburnians, more so for the government and the transport authorities who are responsible for this. But these new stations which are opening up, the Metro Tunnel network, there is two stations side by side, Melbourne Central and the new State Library station. And there's this weird thing that's come out today that potentially just to walk between the two is going to cost you a train trip, even though you might not access, you might not be using the trains. You just need to get between the two spots. You're going to have to pay for it. Let's watch the news report, and I'll give you some of my thoughts. And I think there's been some updates on this as well, and they might have scaled this back a little bit after realizing just how retarded all of this could potentially be when the public learns more about this.
Soon to open Metro Tunnel.
Let's have a listen.
Has a dubious new honour. Melbourne's soon-to-open Metro Tunnel has a dubious new honour. It'll be home to Australia's first pedestrian tollway. The Premier and her Public Transport Minister unable to explain why you'll have to pay to walk between State Library Station and the Melbourne Central shops. State Political reporter Heidi Murphy.
Heading below ground at Anzac Station to admire the newly opened underpass.
Directly beneath the very busy St Kilda Road, this is an underpass that is open to everyone.
It's the same at Parkville, but there'll be no free walk-through between old and new CBD stations.
The State Library Station concourse is now open.
Pedestrians who might want to make the short trip under La Trobe Street to escape the elements or the traffic told that touching on your Mikey at State Library Station and touching off at Melbourne Central Station will be counted as a trip and your Mikey will be charged.
You sound so surprised, Rukshan. I just paused it there because I'm not surprised that they've somehow figured a way to toll Victorians for walking amongst train stations. It's just crazy, guys. It's just crazy. I know I used the R word before. I apologize for those of you who might have been offended. But a lot of this does go down that line of reasoning. And this has been an astronomical cost to the Victorian taxpayer. These budgets have blown out. They spend billions and billions of dollars doing all this. And at some point during that process, could they have not foreseen the public backlash to something like this? A tollway for walking between stations without even having to use... let's just keep watching the rest of the story.
You'll be charged a public transport fee. You'll be charged for taking a train that you never took.
Yeah, I'll get Gab to do that one.
The opposition incredulous.
I think a pedestrian tollway is a great way to describe this.
Questions on it derailing the government's daily countdown event.
It's a ticketed train station area. I don't think it's that confusing.
More confusion when the pair eventually claimed there would be a 15-minute change of mind period to allow free train.
It is pretty confusing. They're saying, it's not that confusing. Look, I get in their minds it's not confusing, but to the average Victorian, just hearing the fact that walking between two stations to access some shops or, just walk through the stations themselves is going to cost you somehow a train ride. I get in their processes because they're treating the stations as two separate entities, even though they're side by side, literally. They're treating it as two separate entities. But for the average person that hears this, it just doesn't make sense, right? It just doesn't sound right.
Transit.
If they do that within that 15-minute window.
That's not what Metro Tunnel is. We will come back to you.
This needs to be simple for Victorians and make sure that those people who decide to walk through, whether on purpose or inadvertently, aren't paying the price.
For all of the hype about Sunday's grand opening of the tunnel, up here at ground level, there is still a bit of work to be done. It will in fact be another year yet until all of the tunnel entries are open. Namely, the two nearest to Flinders Street Station.
So the Federation Square entrance will open in late 2026 and the entrance next to Young and Jackson's will open early next year.
And Heidi joins us now at the desk. Heidi, there's been a late backflip on this.
That's right, Alicia. The government got in touch about half an hour ago to say what they will do is leave a gate open at the station so that pedestrians can move through for free.
Come on. This is who's running our state. No one in that whole chain of command thought that this would be a public PR disaster. No one thought that. It's just crazy that it took some questions from the media on the day they're making all these statements about the ridiculousness of charging people to walk between stations for it to be a backflip. Anyway.
They say they want the underpasses to be widely accessible, and so this change will be made with some extra staff put on as well.
All right, well, it wasn't the only transport issue on the agenda today. Headline magnate Jerome Weimar grilled over SRL.
Yeah, this is the Secretary of the Transport Department faced a whole barrage of questions, and his answers, or lack of them, infuriated one of the Liberal members of the Public Accounts and Estimates Committee, Richard Welsh, asking the same question more than 15 times, trying to find out why the SRL budget hasn't been revised in the 6 years since it was first drawn up, given that construction pressures, it finally got to this.
Has any cost within the package has gone up?
Not to my knowledge.
Not one.
The authority has released 3 packages of work. All 3 have come in under the initial cost estimate within the...
I don't know if you remember this guy, Jerome Weimar, of COVID fame and also Commonwealth Games botch-up fame. And of course, he's a genius now that's behind the SRL. This guy's getting paid a crap load of money for all of this as well. And I don't know, apparently he's like the best public servant when it comes to putting in charge of these programs. I don't know.
Business case.
You don't believe that. I don't believe that. The Victorian public...
Mr Welsh. Mr Welsh.
Are you being honest with this committee?
Mr Weimar was even asked if he would stake his job on the SRL budget, staying at $34 billion. He would say only that he is at the hearing to give advice.
Yes, that's a big question to say yes to.
It is.
Thanks, Heidi.
Melbourne's...
So yeah, the Metro Tunnel has backflipped, it seems, and the government has backflipped. So there will be, this is what they said. This is the update from the reporter. As a result of building 5 brand new stations, 2 of which connect to existing stations, we want to make them fully accessible because we want Victorians to make the most of them. Again, you would have known that beforehand then. We will have one gate open at both Town Hall and State Library stations to provide a free thoroughfare, and Metro train staff will be out in force to help passengers. These underpasses will be open to everyone with no myki required. So it looks like all of that has eventuated in them backflipping and making what should have been already free for people in Victoria to access both areas freely available. All right, guys, moving on to the next story. This is around the social media ban that's coming up. And I don't know if you've noticed, but more people are now paying attention to it. A lot of people that watch this show, and especially myself, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've always been talking about the Karen and her obsession with this digital ID and social media. Even the Labor government, Liberal government, we've complained about all of them because we've seen this dystopian world that they're building around digital ID. And a couple of weeks from now, we will have this under 16 social media ban. And yes, it of course adversely impacts people under 16, a lot of teens. And there's a bit of uproar now as they're finding out finally, like right towards the end, there's a bit of action on it from the young people. And across political, ideological spectrums or different lines, like it's all blurred now. Everyone's kind of against it in a way. It's just Albanese still projecting that somehow this is what parents want and they're doing it for the parents. Okay, but underlying all of this, it actually impacts everyone because we're all being forced to verify in some way age assurance. So they will, whatever system that's going to be implemented, we'll see on the day, they're going to verify our age. And that's only going to get more harsher and more restrictive as time goes on, I believe, in terms of the apps and the web searches that we do where this will be implemented. Things that we can't even imagine right now, they will try to put this verification onto. They will expand, is probably what I'm trying to say in the best way. But yeah, I've just seen a lot more people talking about it now, but I think it's just too late. And this is a problem with our society. Like a lot of people wait till the very end to deal with these issues. A long time ago, we should have kicked out that Karen and gotten rid of her because this is a lot of her creation. We should have dealt with during elections, making this a massive election priority. But it's too late now, guys. For many Australians, like they're going to wake up on the 15th of December or the 16th and be like, oh, why are my kids complaining? What's going on? Like, what is this? And they're already preparing now for the fallout with young people going into the school holidays. And we're talking about maybe kids that are 14, 15, especially when we look at the youth crime in Victoria, like, there's going to be this switch that's just turned off. And a lot of these young kids, they are on these platforms and they use these platforms to communicate with each other, to talk to each other, to, watch content, TikTok, whatever. Like, yes, we can talk about all the problems with all this stuff as well. But I'm saying switch is going to go off and there's going to be limited access to those kids. So that in essence creates another set of problems as well to deal with some of the backlash from this, from the younger people, which I think there will be actually. And we will see cases of, potentially harmful impacts on children as well in the reverse of not being able to access these type of apps. But I'm talking about all of this is because there's a high court challenge that's taking place now. It's being launched by a group called the Digital Freedom Project. I'll read this article from the Australian Financial Review because it has been spearheaded by the Digital Freedom Project, but there's also teens involved in launching this action. So it says, like 1984, teens launched social media ban High Court challenge. A constitutional challenge to Australia's world first increasing the minimum age to social media to 16 has been filed with the High Court of Australia in high-stakes threat to a policy at the centre of Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's agenda. And it is very much at the heart of Anthony Albanese's agenda. I just want to pull up a video of Albanese, I think just from today. He was sharing a video. Let me just go to his... I'll just go to Anthony Albanese's face, X... Albanese. Let's have a look what Anthony Albanese shared today.
Social media ban for under 16s. So you've had some questions about our social media ban for under 16s. So let's get into it. Question 1. Which social and gaming platforms are included? Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, X, Reddit, Kick and Twitch. are all going to be included. Question 2. When does it come into effect? December 10, in just a couple of weeks' time. Question.
He's saying all this crap like smiling, and like I reckon just the younger generation is just going to hate this guy. Like I said before, hate's a big word, but he just likes, you know, all proud of himself about what he's done. Let's keep watching.
When does it come into effect? December 10, in just a couple of weeks' time. Question 3. I am over 16. Will I have to submit government ID to access my account? No. In fact, our legislation specifically prohibits platforms from requiring government-issued ID. Our social media ban is about making sure kids have a childhood. It's not going to be perfect, but it's too important not to give it a crack. You've had some questions.
So there he's trying to alleviate some of the fears around digital ID. Let's just listen again.
I am over 16. Will I have to submit government ID to access my account? No. In fact, our legislation specifically prohibits platforms from requiring government-issued ID. Our social media ban is about making sure kids have a childhood. It's not going to be perfect, but it's too important not to give it a crack. You've had some...
So this is the thing, right? How are they going to verify you? It's going to be intrusive, regardless of whether they take government ID or not. And a lot of these apps already ask for government ID if you want to be verified. That's their minimum standard to be verified. To get a blue tick on X, for instance, or on Instagram or Facebook, you have to issue them with some government ID to become verified as a user. Now, what people are concerned about is, regardless of whether they're asking you for a government ID or not, that this actually builds the infrastructure for a digital ID footprint, because they will require some type of facial scan, which means that they're going to be storing some type of data about you. How else are these companies going to know who's under 16 and who's not? They're going to have some type of verification source at some point in the chain where they can use that data to verify that this is who you say you are, or this is your age. So, I mean, it's still intrusive. It's still building that digital ID footprint, and it's also building a footprint that essentially the government of Australia can access, can link together, can build more and more infrastructure around. Essentially, like the things that they're building does become a part of your digital ID, your government digital ID. Like that's literally the system that they're building out by hoodwinking us. It's a Trojan horse. It's a Trojan horse. So that's why we have these teenagers and the Digital Freedom Project fighting this now in the High Court. Two 15-year-olds, Noah Jones from the Sydney Sutherland Shire and Macy Nayland from New South Wales Hunter Valley, are the teenage plaintiffs behind the challenge, which has been filed by the Digital Freedom Project campaign group. The case will argue that the law, which increases the minimum age to hold an account on social media from 13 to 16 years old, trespasses on teenagers' constitutional rights to freedom of political communication. It is being led by New South Wales Libertarian Party MLC John Ruddick, president of the Digital Freedom Project, who released a statement confirming the challenge had been filed. The issue should concern every Australian. This ban is disproportionate and will trespass either directly or indirectly upon the rights of every Australian, Ruddick said in a statement. Let me just see if I can bring up Ruddick. I just see him come on television and talk about this, and we'll try to watch that video just to make it more concise.
Tonight there's another new development with a constitutional challenge to the social media ban being lodged in the High Court. Two 15-year-olds, Noah Jones and Macy Nayland, are the face of the challenge. The teens claim it restricts their right to freedom of political communication.
John Ruddick is a Libertarian Party MP in New South Wales and is leading this court challenge. He joins us now. John, thank you for your time. You are not under 16, so what's your problem with the ban?
Well, look, the social media is full of valuable information. Now, yes, there are some bad things on social media, and this is a paramount responsibility for parents, not for Mr Albanese and bureaucrats. Now, what's going to happen here is, as you've just seen in your report leading into this, the kids are going to find a way to get around it. So what that's going to mean is, because a lot of smart kids, it's been going around the playground for months about how to get around it. So they're still going to be able to access social media, but the parents are not going to know that it's happening. It's going to be underground social media. So the problems, the challenges that there are on social media are going to be made worse by this ban. And the second point is, I fear this is a slippery slope where the government wants to censor the internet. That's happening all around the world. Now, very sadly, Australia's leading the charge, but governments want to restrict what information the people have, and this is just the beginning of what they want to do. So let's hope the High Court throws this bad bill out.
But John, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do anything about it. I mean, people can not wear their seatbelts too, but still it's there as a warning. And doesn't this also help parents enforce this at home? I thought that was one of the main points.
Well, look, a lot of parents already ban social media, and that is entirely their choice. But the parents have to think, look, this is in 2025, if you've got young children, this is your highest responsibility, is to protect them from social media and to be very careful about what they're doing. What's going to happen is here, they're still going to access social media, but the parents will think, oh, I don't need to worry about it because Mr. Albanese is looking after it for us. No, we do not want to outsource such an important thing to bureaucrats. This is something that should be monitored by parents.
John, who's funding this challenge? Have any social media platforms helped foot the bill? And is there any way it can take effect before this ban comes into place in 2 weeks?
Well, look, we're hoping to get an injunction, which means that the government won't be able to enforce this law by the 10th of December. Now, in terms of the money, look, the social media companies, the social media platforms are very welcome to throw a lot of money at us, but so far it has been funded by grassroots mum and dad, an open source campaign. But look, we do want to raise money because a High Court challenge costs money, but we also want to have money to raise public awareness about the unintended side effects of what can happen with this very bad bill, which is the road to 1984 and censorship.
Well, you've got a fight on your hands, John. I'll definitely give you that, mate. Thanks for coming on the show to talk about it tonight.
Thank you for your interest.
So that's John Ruddick, MLC from New South Wales Parliament, Libertarian. And this is a group, a Digital Freedom Project, if you want to look up what they're doing. They're the ones that are leading this High Court challenge, and they've got some teen plaintiffs on there as well. I'll just read some of their website. It says our case is for all Australians. The Online Safety Act 2021 is introducing a national rule that under 16s must not hold accounts on age-restricted social media platforms. This is a blatant attack on the rights of young Australians, and we cannot accept it. Why we say it's unconstitutional. The High Court has long held that our Australian Constitution implies a freedom to communicate on political and government matters. In this case, the government's purpose, protecting children from demonstrable online harms, is legitimate and serious. But a measure is only constitutional if, in substance, it burdens political communication no more than reasonably necessary to achieve that purpose. Instead, the social media bill, the restrictions, blocks a whole class of Australians, all young people, each and every one of them, no matter their circumstances. From the very online spaces where news is consumed, representatives are contacted, campaigns are organised, and public debate occurs. That effect of exclusion places a heavy burden on political communication and fails proportionality because less restrictive and workable alternatives exist. Parental consent pathways for 14-15-year-olds, platforms, duty of care, and safe design settings. Targeted moderation, takedown, age-appropriate features, gating rather than bans, digital literacy programs, and privacy-preserving age assurance. These measures are feasible at scale and already reflected in overseas practices. That's one of the biggest concerns I have about this, and I understand the need to protect children. But one thing that does actually concern me when I see all of this is that, okay, kids are off social media, and they're young, yes. I see some of the comments as well saying that it'll give kids more free time to, play and be children and all these kind of things, right? That's all true, maybe. But I think we have a system right now, the schooling system, that is indoctrinating children, right? Whether it be the climate science, scam in many instances, right? The world is ending, Greta Thunberg rhetoric that they're shoving into the minds of children. Let's just say that the only place that they're getting this information from is the schooling system and the syllabus and whatever the curriculum and what they're being taught. But they're missing out on these other kind of political ideas at that young age still. I mean, kids are still consuming ideas at school. They're getting certain ideological, political ideas. And we have this setting now where they're banned from seeing other ideas, but they're just getting the prescribed ideas in school settings, which the government approves of. again, I think parents ultimately can always, of course, in their home settings, inform children of different views and different ideas. But most parents don't have the time to do that. So yes, children do find different ideas online. And yes, it can be good and bad influences on them, but at least they're free to find out these ideas and, partake in them as they're developing. Because imagine a world where you have the government and the education system completely in charge of the minds of children, indoctrinating them until they're 16, and then they're put out into the world, right? They're talking about lowering the voting age, as they are doing in the UK. They're looking into that in the UK right now, to lowering the voting age to 16. They keep talking about lowering the voting age in Australia to 16 as well. The Greens pursue this endeavour. So you have this pipeline of indoctrinated children that don't have access to anything else but what the school system and the government approves. They have this wish to have voting at 16, so they come out of indoctrination at 16, then they start voting. And the ideas that they'll be voting for are political ideas, right? Potentially, I'm saying. Even in that 2 years, yes, maybe they can catch up on some of these ideas, but there is a bit of a case to make for this argument that's being put forward here by Digital Freedom Project around political communication. I get what they're saying, personally. And yeah, I am worried about the indoctrination of young people by the government, by the Labor government, by the school system, by the Liberal government. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what government. Like, they will be indoctrinated in a certain way and are not free-thinking children. And I think that's problematic. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Let's see if I have anything else on this particular story I want to share with you guys. Yeah, I mean, it does sound like a bit like North Korea. Part of it feels like, yeah, we're trying to protect children for sure, but it sounds like they're being indoctrinated from, kinder to at least 16 years of age. It is the government and the teachers. Again, a lot of these, not people aren't all there. There's some of these new teachers that are coming through the university system. They are the ones who are melding the minds of the children. Again, I know parents have a responsibility for their kids, and a lot of parents I know take the time and effort to, of course, shape their children's views as well and infuse them with different ideas. But sometimes, a lot of kids fall through the cracks, and they're the ones that get, I think, preyed on by the government. As much as that they might also be vulnerable in online spaces, I think they're also vulnerable to indoctrination. All right, guys, let's have a look at some of your comments here. Bring some up. Dean says the social media companies will leave Australia. Yeah, there is this possibility that what we're going to see is less engagement in Australia. A lot of people, I've already had messages from people saying that they don't necessarily want to have a social media presence anymore because they don't want to give their details. They don't want to give any facial recognition information. They don't want to do anything like this. So what they're saying is that because of what's happening, they're gonna not interact with content online per se. Because even if you want to make a comment on YouTube, you now have to have an account that's somehow assured. Your age is somehow assured, right? You got to have some sort of account to even comment. So it does remove the anonymity from the internet to an extent, and you might have a drop in viewership in Australia for certain content, and it might have an effect on influencers, God forbid, which is maybe not a bad thing overall. I did see some influencers, some young influencers in Australia had flown out to the UK with the whole family so they can continue to make TikToks. So we are in this kind of weird generation, right, where we do have people essentially growing up on social media. Social media has essentially replaced television, the movies and all these kind of things for some people, and that's their life. And you do have personalities on social media, and yeah, it does have a role and effect. I don't know whether companies would leave because they still want to have some sort of connection with people, because even if there's a vast variety of customers above the age of 16, but I know social media companies would love nothing more than to have children at a younger age as well to influence in terms of getting them onto their platforms very early on. Dean says, I have ExpressVPN, so I suppose I can watch YouTube from another country. Yeah, I mean, you can still watch YouTube. You just can't have you can't have an anonymous account necessarily. Like there's going to be some layer of having, some type of identification linked to it, whether it's facial or whatever. I don't know what the hell they're going to do. Let's see. But you're right. You could potentially log into another account from a VPN and come through that way. Is VPN a workaround? Look, I saw this happening in the UK as well. And depending on how the sites deal with it, there are certain sites that actually build in VPN detection. So just to be really, be in the government's good books, I think Reddit was doing this in the UK. They built in VPN detection. So even if you try to circumvent it by going through on a VPN, the website or the app will say, actually, you're using a VPN. That's not allowed. You can't use this to circumvent this particular issue. And I did see in the comments, someone else made a good point about like porn sites and things like this. This isn't covered by it. So obviously, like kids can still access all types of content online. And this specifically just targets social media. And the one thing that I know about, teenagers and kids is that they find, interesting ways to get around things. And even in this instance, I don't think this is going to stop them from finding ways to interact with each other. They're going to find some method, some way, and it's going to be completely, parents are going to have no idea about it. All right, it's going to be some sort of black market messaging app or something that they latch onto that that everyone kind of starts using because that's a cool thing to do. That app's going to take off. The government's going to be like, okay, we're going to shut down this app as well. Then the kids are going to find something else, and it's going to continue on like this. This is a losing battle in many ways, and I think there's maybe other ways that this can be tackled, particularly around getting parents more involved in this and maybe giving them some of the control around this, right? That's just a suggestion. Guys, I don't know why are you guys asking me questions about Israel. I'm not talking about Israel. Like, you guys have just got Israel derangement syndrome. If all you're thinking about is Israel, even when we're talking about these topics related to Australia, you're just talking about Israel. If you got stuff you want to ask about Israel, come on the opposition podcast. You can put your comments in there. How did Rukshan get clearance to go backstage at the ARC conference in London to interview John Howard? That's an insider. I don't know what you mean. I was there as media. Media usually has access to people at an event, and we were able to approach people and ask them for an interview. And if they agreed, you interviewed them. Like, this is not some conspiracy. So it's not about insider and all this kind of stuff. I happen to be there. John Howard is an ex-Australian Prime Minister. I am a journalist from Australia, and he might be more willing to talk to me in that setting in the UK because who knows? Like, it's like, yeah, you're an Australian journalist. You want to interview the ex-Australian Prime Minister. He might talk to you. Less likely in Australia, but more likely in the UK in a setting like that. There's nothing nefarious or weird going on there. In a free capitalist market, someone will invent something to bypass. Yeah, in this case, Paul Murray, I think there's already things available to children that they can use to bypass this. This is just silly thinking because there's so many chat apps and there's so many, third-rate social media apps that some of them might actually have a boom now because kids will find an alternative, and eventually the kids will decide. Like, they do these weird things like 6-7 and all this kind of stuff that we don't have any idea about, like the younger generation. They'll find some weird app, right, where they can communicate and they'll continue on. Rukshan is a DEI journalist. 100%. I am a diversity hire journalist, guys. You are watching a diversity hire show. This is a DEI show. This whole thing is just DEI. All right, guys, let's keep moving on to the next story. I hope you're having fun on Rukshan On X. If you're joined in for the first time, thanks for coming on, guys. It's a very casual show, as you can see. I do interact with the comments, including my trolls. So if you're not subscribed or haven't liked my pages, especially on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and X. I do simulcast this, so this is actually playing on X, Facebook, and YouTube at the moment. You can watch on any of those platforms and you'll see the comments all coming through. from all of those platforms. So it's a lot of fun, guys. Make sure you get involved in the comments, and you can also super chat me if you want to support the show. Next story. Let's just jump to the next story. Let me find it. Where's my notes? Oh, I've lost track answering all your comments. All right, this is a follow-up on a story that we did a few weeks ago now. And that was a disturbing incident in the Melbourne CBD. Did you remember there was a lady walking, someone came and stabbed them? Well, the stabber has not been granted bail, which is, she's still behind bars. Let's have a listen to this.
Disturbing new details have emerged about the woman charged over the shock.
He hasn't been able.
New details have emerged about the woman charged over the shocking city stabbing of an innocent restaurant worker. Let's go live now to our crime reporter, Gillian Lantouris, who's at the Magistrates Court. Jill, they've been revealed as she makes a bid for bail.
Absolutely, Alicia. Lauren Darul has made a bid for freedom for the second time, but prosecution remains that she is an unacceptable risk to the community. Given that CBD attack was in broad daylight, 7:30 in the morning, and the victim was allegedly a random stranger just walking to work, police say that no bail conditions can really mitigate this risk. The court also heard that Darul was on 19 counts of bail and summons for separate offences, including spitting at a 10-year-old boy, and she had also skipped court appearances 16 times with warrants issued for her arrest. She does have a series of mental health disorders and has abused drugs, meth, ice, as well as alcohol in the past, but the defence has claimed that she does need to get bail, that she should be bailed to an inpatient mental health care facility with wraparound support services because she is struggling in prison, and that's because there has been various lockdowns, meaning she hasn't been able to leave her cell some days. But the victim of that alleged CBD stabbing says that she is fiercely opposed to bail, that she is still suffering, but that decision will be made tomorrow afternoon. Alicia?
Okay, Jill, thank you.
So look, I think, good news. There's this element of people wanting, feel sympathy for someone like this because, they've got mental issues and all this kind of stuff. But they're a risk to the community. So either institutionalize them in a facility that they can't escape from, right? Not this kind of institutions where they medicate you and put you out back into the streets, because that's kind of what's happening. And that's kind of when all this thing went down. Or just lock them up for a long time. And it sounds kind of, mean to say it in this way, but it's a risk to society. Unfortunately, something's gone wrong here. The people around her obviously have either, of course, abandoned her or let her down as well. I'm not judging people for this, because these kind of people can get away from their family and friends as well. But, in these instances, we have to protect the rest of the wider community. And it's way beyond the time where we show sympathy and compassion and forget about just protecting innocent Victorians, because it's just too rampant now. And, there has to be a message that's sent. And, there's going to be consequences. There's going to be consequences to behavior. And if you want to be, the bleeding heart type, then push for institutions where, even if it's like mental institutions, asylums, I don't care, that actually look after these people in a proper manner, manage them, and don't let them out into the streets anymore. So that's my thoughts on this. I just wanted to share that update, because a lot of the times we do talk about crime in Victoria, and we look at these horrific scenes like this stabbing, and everyone's outraged, but we don't understand the outcome, the eventual outcome. Well, most of the time we do. They're let out on bail, but in this instance, she's still behind bars, and the judges have ruled correctly that she's still a risk to the public. Let's just get to some of your questions. You guys are asking about Pauline Hanson's. That was my next thing. I'm looking forward to watching Pauline Hanson's movie at the cinema on Australia Day. Yeah, there was a... let me just find the trailer to that. I'll find the trailer. Pretty sure I saved it. And there was a bit of commotion around that as well, because they banned it from Parliament House from being played at Parliament House. They were having a launch event at Parliament, and last minute the Parliament House authorities, whoever, said, nah, you can't do it here because it might upset people and it might offend people, which is just ludicrous. Parliament should, be a place where all ideas are accepted to an extent. And, I'm sure there's lots of things that are offensive that are played in the Parliament cinemas, which have, left-wing ideas that many people might not agree with. But, we don't stop that from happening. All right, let me find Pauline Hanson's trailer to the... It's called the Super Progressive Movie Trailer. Let's have a look into this. The Super Progressive Movie Trailer is here. According to bureaucrats, this trailer is too controversial and may offend a person to be screened in Parliament House, which caused a last-minute swap to another theatre in Canberra. The movie launches on Australia Day 2026 and can be pre-ordered online. Let's watch the trailer, guys. Sound up.
Once upon a time, in so-called Australia, a culture war tore the nation apart. And somehow, the lefties won. And I should know, I'm the Prime Minister, Albo. This is my land. Good morning, fellow white straight males.
Hey, big boy.
Just as the elders foretold, this is Namageddon.
I'm gay and retarded, Your Honour. I'll allow it.
That's toxic positivity. I'm sorry. In case you haven't noticed, Pete, I'm black.
Daddy, I don't believe him.
You have to believe him, honey. He's 1/16th Aboriginal. Wait, what if someone sees us?
Let the cookers watch.
Wow, the rainbow serpent. Sounds like a really cool gay snake. It's not a gay snake!
Hey, that looks good. That's the Pauline Hanson One Nation movie that's coming out, superprogressivemovie.com. And if you've been a fan of her cartoons, I'm sure you'll love it as well. But you can pre-order it, I believe, or something like this online. And it'll be available in select cinemas on the 26th on Australia Day. That's cool. I'm looking forward to watching that. Looks really funny. I think it should be really good. It's going to obviously piss off all the right people, it looks like, from the trailer. They do a good job with that cartoon. Like, that's what's missing in Australia as well. We need to have a bit of comedy and fun and relief. They always poke fun at the right, but I think we've finally got the right balance of poking fun at the left through creativity and art. This is very funny. Dean says, I'm looking forward to watching Pauline Hanson's movie at the cinema on Australia Day. That's right, Dean. That's why I pulled that up. A Rukshan and Avi cameo would have been great. I know, right? She needs to put some podcasters in there. Next time we speak to Pauline, we'll let her know. I think we did let her know. We did tell her that when she was on our stream last time, to put us in there for a bit of diversity. But we'll remind her next time we chat. Cooker watch. Let the cookers watch. And when they poke fun at the right, nobody laughs because the left can't meme. I definitely agree. They're the worst at memes. It will be a cult classic. I do agree with you. I think this is going to be a cult classic. You're going to have little clips from it. You're going to get lots of memes out of it. And it'll be good fun. Nathan, mate, you need to find a new hobby, mate. You just got some strange comments, buddy. Maybe just stick to the Israel derangement syndrome. It does encapsulate some of the larrikin Aussie spirit for sure, because everything's watered down now. Everything's politically correct. Everyone's scared to say things. We're afraid we might offend someone, and people are obviously very careful with how they talk about people or groups. And it used to be a lot more funnier back in the day. seeing slightly more offensive content on even just regular television. Something like Hey Hey It's Saturday. You know, you look at some of the stuff now, yeah, it looks a bit controversial in today's context because we've kind of put everyone in bubble wrap and you can't say mean things. But it's so funny. It's so good. And this has a bit of that nostalgic feeling to it for sure. Yeah, you like Aussies. There you go. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining in for today's show. Let me know in the comments if you want to ask me any questions. I'll be on for the next probably 15 minutes just chatting with you guys, answering any questions you have, answering any super chats as well. I got one here. Let's have a look. Let's bring up the super chat. I think Paul Murray, you were asking about VPNs as a workaround, and I think I answered that, didn't I, Paul? And Montana Meow, you need to get Pauline as a guest on your show. Yeah, we might get her on the Opposition podcast again, probably next year. But yeah, maybe she can one day come on Rukshan On X, just Pauline Hanson exclusive, where we look at news together. Hopefully, I can manage to do that. Let's see. Why not? Yeah, her legend is growing fast. Yes, DML, the machete video from David Limbrick. Let me pull that up. You're right. We did mention that at the start. Let's see where the money for the machete ban is being wasted. David Limbrick.
Update on the machete bin saga. Apologies to everyone for leaving you hanging so long, but I've finally got an update on the machete bin saga. So we already know we've accounted for about $800,000 or $900,000 worth, which we know is for the construction and distribution and stuff, but that still left another $12 million. Well, today we can account for another $1 million. There's been 2 tenders which we found on government websites. And the first one is for $120,000. I'll put it up on the screen now. This is to a company called Quantum that does market research. I don't know what sort of market research they're going to be doing. Are they going to be getting in people who own machetes and asking them questions? I got no idea, but that's a lot of money for a lot of market research, and we'll be asking about that in Parliament next week to see exactly what sort of research they were doing, because it's a lot of money. The second one, which is even bigger, which is about $880,000, which you can see up on the screen now. This is to a company called VML, which does creative design. So basically they're an advertising company. They do creative work. This is not actually placing the ads, but they spent about $880,000 apparently on designing these machete bin ads for television and social media and stuff. And damn, they must be creative for that amount of money, because that is a lot of money. I don't know about you, but I wish I was that creative to get $880,000 worth of creativity. I think these little videos are pretty creative myself. But we've accounted now for about $2 million. That doesn't include the actual placement of the ads, and God knows what else they're trying to do with that money, but we've now accounted for another $1 million. I've got some info from an expert in advertising, which we'll touch on next time.
Crazy. David Limbrick, of course, the Libertarians in Victoria, through David Limbrick, and Tim Quilty as well during the COVID pandemic. They do some great work. And again, it's a shame that these figures aren't just transparently made available to the public. Like, just show us what you're spending the money on. Why does a Libertarian MP has to waste their time doing what the government should be making transparently available to the public on where these costs are going? Like, why is all this investigative digging around required? Now, we all know the answer, but I'm just making the point that this stuff should just be in the public record, easily to access, that this type of money is being spent on these programs and exactly in what manner they're being spent. Now, there was a long debate around how much each of those bins cost. They're saying $300,000 each, just by dividing the total cost that we figured out what it was. But then, we found out later on that you could probably get one made for between $2,000 to $10,000, depending on how you're making it. And then I think David Limbrick also found out that potentially prisoners or people in the jail system were involved in making these as well. So it's just been complete nonsense, this machete thing. It's kind of embarrassing. It also goes back to what we discussed at the start of this show, this 6-month power that Victoria Police is given, the expanded power. So obviously we have a lot of issues in Gotham City of Melbourne, and we just gotta, I don't know, I wouldn't say accept it, but we just gotta go through the motions of trying to understand how we ended up here. Jenny, I don't know if you're joking, but you're saying, I did the market research. They asked our opinion on machete bans and children bail laws. Okay, so it's like a focus group. I know these market research companies, they do focus groups. They'll find, a mix of people from the public, and they'll ask them a bunch of questions to figure out how they would react to certain things. And a lot of the time, the market research is really around trying to find out how things would, politically sit polling-wise. Like, let's say we're introducing machete bins. What would the public reaction be to that? I don't know if you remember during COVID, there was a lot of focus groups that Daniel Andrews was running before introducing different bans and rules to figure out how people would react, right? There was a lot of money spent during that time on these focus groups because a lot of it was just based on political calculations of how people would, whether they would accept something or not accept something, and how that would politically damage Daniel Andrews and the Labor Party. So it could be a lot of this kind of shenanigans going on with the money that's being spent. And that is not unusual for the Labor Party or even the Liberal Party to be involved in something like this. What a pathetic waste of money. No crime would have handed in anything. Yeah, trust me, the criminals are not handing in their machetes. Not the average criminal in Victoria. They're not handing their machetes. If Melbourne is Gotham City, who is Thomas? Well, let's not go there on this show. What good is research and study absent a control group? That's true as well. This is just literally just marketing research. No joke, yes, they paid money for our opinion. Yeah, they definitely do pay money for these focus groups to the people that partake in them. But you're getting a small cut of what these agencies themselves will take from it. For them, it's a drop. It's nothing. It's literally just the extraction of the money of the people of Victoria. It's the extraction of taxpayers' money by these firms. And again, I can't allege any particular mishandling of this situation in a nefarious manner, but we have seen, Victorian Labor tends to look after its mates in all manner of businesses. We've got another super chat here. We got, let's have a look, from Montana Meow again. Will you and Avi be attending the march on Sunday? Yes, I'll be attending the march on Sunday. This is the Put Australia First march. So let me just pull up that website actually while we're here, just to give you guys, if you don't know that's happening, putaustraliafirst.com. So let me just pull that up. There's marches happening in Sydney on the 29th, on Saturday. There's a march. And then there's a march on Melbourne on the 30th, 12 p.m. at Flinders Street, starting at Flinders Street and finishing off at Flagstaff Gardens. So this is one of these pro-Australia marches. This one here in Victoria, I believe it's being spearheaded by Nick Patterson and Morgan Jonas from memory. So I will be covering the march on Sunday for sure. Let's have a look. Equity, thanks for the super chat. What's your Christian rock recommendations? I was telling you that I listen to Christian music. I like Elevation Worship. Let me just pull up my Spotify. Let's get the Spotify happening. I can't play the songs because obviously we'll get tagged on. We'll get tagged on these apps, YouTube and stuff. But I definitely like Elevation Worship. I think they have some cool modern songs. And it's an American church. Also, Hillsong have a new album out as well. They got some good songs. I think it's their first album release after like 5 years. There's some good songs there. And Bethel Music, they have some good music as well. There's a few. Maybe I'll make a playlist and share some of my Christian worship music that I listen to. And recently, just before this show, I was listening to all the Psalms have been made into like rap songs or R&B music using AI, and that sounded pretty cool as well. I was listening to that just before, and it was an interesting interpretation of the Psalms. So, yeah, thanks for that question, Equity. All right, guys, couple more minutes, 5 more minutes, and I'm finishing up after that. But yeah, great to have you all here. I had a lot of fun. Christmas pageant. Okay, yeah, here we go. Swell would be the Riddler. Oh, yeah, I can see him as a Riddler. Yeah, I'll definitely put together a playlist for sure. I've even found there's an infusion that you can get with like Christian music plus rap music, like a mix between the two, Christian rap. Like that's the thing as well. It's very interesting. Like there's this kind of whole world of this. I prefer Byzantine chants. Yeah, I agree with everything on them except the Australian painter worship is cringe. Well, that's the problem that I think the NSN has, or these kind of White Australia Party movements have, is that they pretty much link all Australians back to Nazism with their obsession with Hitler. So whatever, message that they might have, at the end of the day, people are just going to look at the extremes of it. And that is going to be the fact that they obsess over Hitler, Mein Kampf, all this kind of nonsense, and everything else gets lost in it. It's okay to have nationalistic movements. It's okay to have people that advocate for certain, even ethno-nationalism sometimes as a political idea. These things happen in all countries. This is not an uncommon thing. This happens all around the world. There is some degree of ethno-nationalistic, political, ideological rhetoric when it comes to debates. This is a normal thing, particularly in multicultural societies. These things come about. But once you start infusing it with, Hitlerism, Nazism, you're kind of doing a disservice, perhaps, to your own messaging, which I don't really care about. Who cares? Like, if they want to do a disservice to themselves, I'm not their biggest fans. But in the grand scheme of things, of course, the media, the politicians, just the everyday people are just going to focus on that. And yeah, I don't want to give them too much advice. Let's just say that. I genuinely mean no disrespect, but I've heard you use Jesus Christ as a common expression, but I believe you're practicing. Any thoughts, especially when you were praying Psalm 23 in the Holy Land? Look, I admit I'm not a perfect individual, and I may use such expressions sometimes, but yeah, it comes with no ill intent. It's like saying, oh my God, or something like this. I don't think it comes with ill intent, but I know it can have that attached to it. I don't, think too deeply into those kind of things. I believe we're imperfect people, and we're a sum of our actions. And I by no means do I think I am like a perfect model Christian. I know I'm not. I'm far from that. But every day, I try to improve myself. So if you're asking about the protest gathering that's happening in Melbourne, that's on Sunday, the 30th of November at 12 p.m, meeting at Flinders Street. You can go to putaustraliafirst.com and you'll find all the details there. So putaustraliafirst.com. All right, guys, it's been great being on the show with you today. Catch me tomorrow if you want on the Opposition podcast, 7 p.m. with Avi Yemeni. we'll be talking about maybe some of these issues and new ones as well. You can join on that show. That'll be happening at 7 p.m. And I'll be back next week on Monday with Rukshan on X. Thank you so much for your contributions and your comments and joining me tonight. I hope you'll have a good night or if good morning, depending on where you're watching from, or good evening, whatever it is. And enjoy your day tomorrow. Take care, everyone.